You know, when I went to buy the tickets, I was very much aware that I looked Asian. So we are born in South Korea. The culture of South Korea completes that biological development. And you become a Korean.
Those were brief snippets from the conversation you're about to hear, which is part 2 of our interview with Korean adoptee Aline Giordano. Here are a couple more snippets to take us into the No So Kopo show and ultimately part 2 of this interview with Aline. Stay tuned.
I was born in Korea. I was uprooted by the system, ended up being a French citizen and being brought up as a French person. I mean, adoption is a national wound in Korea. You know, Korea has many wounds.
As you probably know, and as we always say, we usually record this live in UK's Koreatown itself. That's an area in and around New Malden. Yes, that's the largest Koreatown and Korean community in Europe. On this occasion though, a conversation takes place via a video call, myself being in Asia and our special guest in the UK. And that guest is Aline Giordano, a Korean adoptee raised in France. In this 2-part interview, we discussed the recently released and much acclaimed film by Davy Chou, Return to Seoul, a film revolving around a Korean adoptee from France, but finding herself, perhaps in more ways than one, in South Korea. But we also branch off onto other topics. In this part 2 of Jay's conversation with Korean adoptee Aline Giordano, we continue to discuss the film Return to Seoul, its music and also music in general. Aline tells us about whether she will return to Seoul herself, but also about her Gestalt therapy, work and music as therapy. The film's use of translation and use of more than one language is touched on too, as is Aline and Jay's ability or non-ability to learn multiple languages. Thanks for watching or listening. So was there a moment in the film where, was it when you ever thought, oh, this could have been better with a Cure song over it? No, there's nothing like that, because I know that that's probably quite prominent in your mind, more than being a French adoptee, a Korean adoptee in England.
That's a great question, a really great question. And you know, actually, no, the score is absolutely superb. And that track called Freddy is works so well. You know, they've taken the bass line and the drum section or the rhythm of this great song by Bauhaus, this band, British band. Bauhaus, Bela Lugosi's Dead. It's an amazing track. You know, it's. Oh. To think that it was released in 1979, go and listen to it. It's like absolutely, they were well ahead of their time.
Is it? Yeah. No, because I don't want to talk over you because I know the sound goes up and down when you do that. But I was going to say, is it a sample then, or is it just they've copied it?
It's not a sample. I would say that they've created something new out of a piece of art that was already there, out of a song that was already there, and they really lifted to the essence of that song that works so well for the movie. And you know, this is where for me I went into this world of dystopian world of darkness and gothic fiction and Blade Runner. And you know, the middle part of the movie could actually be very much this typical lower city, upper city, which you see in dystopian movies or science fiction, the sort of low life. And we go into the underbelly of Seoul in the middle part, when she wears that Blade Runner jacket, really. Leather jacket, and I think this is very symbolic that when she is wearing that jacket and she's speaking to this French guy about selling weapons, basically, we are. I think this is a very clear sign from some Davy Chou that pay attention again, and the music is always there for me to sort of pay attention. Something important is happening here. So I'm absolutely sold with this track. Bela Lugos is dead. Bauhaus is I love that band. I love that track. So I'm happy with the Cure being used for other things.
So actually, did he mention, because I say you might have seen a few more interviews than I have, did he say anywhere that there was a Blade Runner deliberate influence, or is it just what you've taken from it? Like the jacket seemed like it's
what I've taken from it. Yes, absolutely.
I think it was, I'm not sure if it was.
It's my process of interpretation, which is my life story, my sort of the professional, the modality that I use in my coaching, which is, the process of interpretation is therapeutic, is creative. We imagine ourselves through the eyes of the other, then we become aware of how we see the world. So even, me, by watching this movie about a Korean-born French adoptee, it's still for me a different story. And then watching that story then helps me grow, helps me to become aware of how I am in the world, and actually how I have been in the world, or how I was. I went to see this movie with my best friend, who happens to also be an ex-partner of mine. So we were together in my early 30s, and then when we came out of the movie, he said, "Wow, I understand a lot about you now," as in a lot about how you, for example, can just shut down like that.
So you didn't feel like you wanted to see it alone, because it's such a intense, could be traumatic film. I mean, when I go to any film, sometimes I prefer to be on my own. But what I mean is, you didn't, or did you? You obviously you're good friends, or you didn't go just in case you broke down with some.
Again, it's a very good question, Jason. And to be perfectly honest, I went with my best friend just in case I needed support.
Yeah, but that's good, because you could have done, and you can still zone out and be in your own world while it's on, because I find that difficult to think for myself when there's, I don't know, it's just.
There's a part of me who, as you said, there's a part of me who wanted to just go on my own, even put an invisible cloak. Like, when I went to buy the tickets, I was very much aware that I looked Asian, and I was going to see that movie from a Asian sort of perspective. But I really also wanted to share this with my best friend. Share that moment, share the present moment with him. I thought that was really important for him, because that's what culture is about. Culture is, for me, a factor of psychological resilience, whether it's literature, poetry, film, arts. This really is important. And then we can talk about it and try and understand each other from different perspectives, and understand and communicate better and interact in a more humane way. That's what arts is about, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and it's a good job that you did, I suppose. Now you said that, now you've explained that to me, because he might have never seen it. otherwise. It's one of those films that, you know, if you don't see it in a cinema or movie or whatever, he would, again, you'd always be saying, if only you'd seen Return to Seoul, you would have known a bit more about me, you know, and he would never have seen it. So it's good that you kind of almost made them sit through it.
You know, I didn't make him. I said, you know, look, you know, the only time I can go and see this movie is this time. Can you make it? He said, yes, I'd love to. You know, we are really close friends. We're really, really best close friends. So, and he understands, having lived with me. He's been on the receiving end of, you know, when we actually shut down. So, and he's curious. He loves movies on top of things. So it was.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So but just completely not to do with the film as such, but was it one of the, because it's Picture House, was it one of the ones with the Q&A with him there?
No.
Or with the director? Oh no, I wasn't sure, because there's different picture houses and I wasn't sure where you went to see it.
No, it wasn't the special screening. I missed that one. I was not around, so it was just a normal screening, you know.
Yeah. I mean, what else is there? I mean, there is so much to say about the film. Really, I mean, I'm not much more from your point of view, because, you know, you've got so much sort of in common with it. But so again, did you know, because you'd read so much about it, did you know that the actress, the artist actress, she hadn't acted before? Did you find that out afterwards? And did, you know, because, you know, sometimes that gives it away when you go to see the film and you're always looking in to see, wow. But if you don't know, it's sometimes nice.
I knew she was not an actress before going. And I was quite excited about that. And I knew that she had asked Davy Chou to make some major revisions to certain parts of the dialogues and the script, and I was really excited about that as well.
Yeah, there's a good interview. I can't remember which one it is. I've got it on my YouTube watch later or something, but when she starts saying all the stuff that she did, you know, correct, and he was like, and he suddenly said, yeah, but I did do some good stuff. He said, I did put a lot of good stuff in it. It wasn't just all bad, because she was going on. And he said, no, I just want to make it clear that, you know, it wasn't all bad.
Yeah, no, it was a great movie, and you know, I really loved the opening of the movie. For me, it was so French in many ways, even though it's where they speak Korean when they're at the table with in the restaurant with the two Koreans, and the male friend says, "Oh, that reminds me of a Mongolian poem," which he then says in French. And I thought that was really a beautiful way of starting the movie. And for me, that really resonated very strongly with what I do, which is bibliotherapy. You know, I studied and trained as in creative writing for therapeutic purposes. So, you know, from the beginning, music as cultural agent, and then poetry, I was in my element. I thought, yeah, this is going to be 2 hours well spent. And then I went into and I found the poem online, and it's such a beautiful poem, really simple and beautiful poem.
So does it, because it's a Mongolian French poem, was that deliberate? Or, I mean, do you think that's hit? I mean, because it's a, you know, Mongolia, you know, Asia and France, and is that what he said? You said it's a Mongolian French poem, or
no, a Mongolian poem, which
yes.
For some reason, well, obviously, which he recites in French because he wants to communicate with Freddie in French, but you know, it ends. You know, I've written it down here, and it says, you know, it goes, "Ceci tout ceci est ma terre natale, mon adorable patrie, ma Mongolie. That is so beautiful and so moving. And the way that is being translated, and that I saw it translated, is absolutely gut-wrenchingly wrong. They go, this is my native land, Mongolia, the beautiful. It's like, oh, you know, but you know, it goes, all of this is my native land, my adorable nation, my Mongolia.
Well, my French, yeah, as you know, a lot of people in England, we have to learn French, and my knowledge is, you know, minimal, but so I understood a few words, but I remember when I was, another thing we've had in common actually was the, I can talk about the mindfulness, the Ayurveda. I went to India, and so did you, to the same place. I went because of your recommendation, and I was with a load of, this is off topic, although it is Asia, and I don't know, British man going there. You know, there was a load of French people for 2 weeks. And of course, all these words and sentences kept coming back to me that I hadn't used for years. So it's amazing when you put in that and you start going, you know, I don't know, femelle, fenêtre, and I don't know, things. Yeah, another thing about the film, there was, because you talked about the club, was it? There's a scene in a club, and I think it might have been Timothy from the Not So Korean podcast, our podcast. I think he's been to that club. If it wasn't him, it was one of my other friends in Seoul. So that was an interesting fact. I'm pretty sure it was him. I really want to review this film myself for my minimovie.com website. A bit plugged there, but I haven't had the energy. And it's a film, it's quite, you know, deep and it would take me a long time to cover all the points I want to cover, and have to rewatch it again. And although I will say again, Timothy has written it for Korean. I don't know if you know about this. I'm not trying to plug it as such, but it's the KBCE. It's the Korean British Cultural Exchange. We work with a friend you've heard of them, yeah?
Yes.
And so he started doing a bit of writing for them. But we did record, because he went to the London Korean Film Festival back in October or November last year, and I'd been to Busan. We did record our own thoughts on Return to Seoul, which I've yet to publish. So, but it's so good that you agreed to do this, because obviously, you know, you're the best reviewer, because one of the best reviewers, because obviously, you know, what do we know? What do us, you know, white male non-adoptees know?
But you know exactly from your perspective, from a white male non-adoptee perspective.
Yeah.
And that's what this movie is great at doing, is that, you know, it's getting us to talk, to relate to one another, to, is this how it feels? Does it feel right to you? Do you sense into this? Yes, actually, I can relate to 90% of what's happening in the movie. Not the arms trading, not the things, you know, not the sort of underbelly of Seoul. I didn't have that experience, and I'm probably too old to dare to have it now. But you know, it really feels that they got it right, and you know, it's a team effort. You know, Laure Badouf must have written some really good sort of 40, 60 pages. That's what she sent to Davy Chou. It must have been, right, this is how it feels to be a Korean-born French adoptee. You know, it's because, you know, part of my work is really to, my academic interest is really to look at culture. So you're born in a country. So I was born in Korea. I was uprooted by the system, ended up being a French citizen and being brought up as a French person. You know, my parents adopted me because they're loving Christians and they thought, you know, we must do our bit. But, you know, culture in, there's this Gestalt theorist and clinical psychologist called Gordon Wheeler, who says that culture is the completion of our biological development. That's huge. You know, when I came across this, I thought, wow, that is huge. Culture is the completion of our biological development.
Interesting, it's the completion. I know it should be integral, but yeah.
Because our biological completion, our biological development is left incomplete, so that at birth, it's left incomplete at birth, so that we have the best, the best way to adapt in the environment that we grow up, the environmental condition. So we are born in South Korea, the culture of South Korea completes that biological development, and you become a Korean. You know, this is not nature culture or whatever, nature nurture. You know, it's culture is nature. So we are born in Korea, then we are uprooted. In my case, at 11 months. 11 months, I become French citizen. I grew up as a French person. And I take myself in my early 20s, I take myself to the UK, and I am a French citizen working in the UK for decades.
Yeah.
And then I go back to Seoul in 2012 with my adoptive mother. And that in itself is felt quite traumatic.
And there's two things I want to say about that. Well, no, two things I want to say. One is, first of all, you've probably told me before, but is that something, if I remember rightly, it's not something you don't want to return there, or if you do, not just yet. Is that what it is? Was it enough? It was too traumatic.
It was traumatic, not too traumatic, but it was traumatic, yes, to be amongst your people and not being able to communicate, to not understand. It's really just carrying on that feeling of incomprehension. It's like forever you're living with that, you know, I don't understand what's going on here. You know, you're with your people.
Yeah.
You can't speak to them. You can't relate to them. You've lost that kinship.
Yeah, so that's a no. You probably won't return there.
Well, who knows? Who knows?
Never say never.
You know, if I return as a tourist or as an adoptee who wants to understand my native land or whatever else, I will, like Freddie, come back initially with that sort of white gaze. I can't help it.
Yeah. You become, because it's been so long, you were 11 months Korean in Korea, and the rest of the time has been outside and in a very, well, mixed country, but white countries. The other thing I was going to say about that was, you said it teaches people, the film, you know, it raises awareness, but that's a great thing for people that know nothing about Korean adoption. Because I mean, 12, 13, 14 years ago, or I didn't know the details, you know, 200,000 roughly adoptees and the circumstances, you know, so people will go and see that film and maybe who have nothing to do with that, you know, like your friend, if he didn't even know that about you, he might go away going, oh, what's this, you know, start researching about what happened back then. So it's a good thing for there's a whole audience that have got nothing to do with adoptees. Yeah. But they might have a friend, but that's probably in the minority.
Yeah, I mean, adoption is a national wound in Korea. You know, Korea has many wounds.
Yeah, I know. I did a talk recently about Korean cinema, but I also talked about my activism, and I did something else. I won't, because I'm a filmmaker, but I was talking about it. It's one thing after another. When the Sewol happened, they'd already had all these other tragedies, and then of course last year they had Itaewon, in Halloween. Although Indonesia had a very similar thing happen a couple of months before that. But it's Korea just can't stop being, either by its own government maybe, or by its own sex divide. It can't help but have this, and by other countries, have this continual pain. And so, you said Han. I always say Han. I know it's wrong, but you said it correctly. And can't explain what it is. That and Jong, you obviously know about Jong. And I probably said it wrong, but it's a collective thing. Jong is very, it goes in, I would say it's the two things, Han and Jong. One is a pain thing, one is a together thing, together thing. Jong is, but
at this point, I'd like to say, I bow to you, Jason, because you speak Korean and I don't.
I don't know. I don't speak Korean. I know a few sentences, and I can read
Korean.
Oh yeah, but it's not really. I mean, I'm in Thailand now. I can speak a few words, and I do it really well. In the fact that, right, really well, but it's just the words, yeah, or it's just saying it's hot. It's very hot, and they hear that. But because I'm a good maybe impersonator, they suddenly go, "Oh wow, good Thai." And I was like, "Yeah, but I don't know how to structure a sentence or anything. I've just said that." And it's the same in Korea. I might say, "Where is the restaurant?" or "Where is the toilet?" or something. I can say it perfectly, but it is also one of the easiest languages to read, as in the Hangul, as you probably know. You can probably read, like, there's 40 characters. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. I forget some characters, but the alphabet is quite. I mean, you must have maybe tried written your own name in Hangul before.
I have, yes, indeed.
And maybe a bit more. So
yes, I have tried. It's not happening for me. There's like a massive mental energetic blockage. I can't. I just can't.
It's great, but it's amazing you can't, just because I can't. Look, I'm from lazy Britain. We don't speak many languages. But you're speaking now as if you could be a Brit. I don't know that you're French, Korean. You've got, what I mean is you've nailed, sometimes when people nail a language completely, which you have, you're fluent in both, that, you've got to have the desire to, and I don't have the desire to learn Korean enough. And so that's why I haven't learned it fluently. But what I'm saying is, you speak two languages. It wouldn't surprise me if you could learn a third. Because that's how it works, I think.
Well, I used to speak Spanish and Russian, actually.
Oh, okay. All right, yes.
That's why I'm saying, Korean just is not happening for me.
Well, why was the Russian why were both of those languages part of your life?
Because that's what I chose when I went to college and then university. I was doing I did a master's in languages. So yeah, English, French, Spanish, and Russian.
Yeah, well, I'm still, I want to. It's as you get older, I'm older, but I'm. It's the dedication. I could do loads of things if I really put my mind to it, and you're better at this. I know that you are, as in blanking stuff out, getting on with work. I've been away for, God, it's going on for 9.5 months, which was not the intention. It was only meant to be 5 months at max. And I could have written a script. I could have written a full movie. I could have shot a movie. I'm just saying, and I've started quite a few scripts, and I've done podcast stuff, and I've filmed other things. But what I mean is, you're better at compartmentalizing your time, even getting this. And we're drifting off the topic here, but even getting this interview, you were ready the day after the film, and we talked about an interview, and it's like, we needed more time. and I wasn't the one that wanted to, you know, I just arrive and haven't, you put the work in, that's what I mean. And
my pleasure.
you know, it's just, but we want to talk about, you know, going back to the cure and stuff. I know that there's a project that we've talked about, and we really wish we recorded that call last time. Was I still in the UK then? Or was I in Korea?
I think you were in the UK. I think you were in the UK. You were just going to go.
Yes, there's loads of those things. But there's stuff, maybe, and I don't like to say this too often because I hate saying maybe unless someone needs to kick my bum into gear to do that project that we were talking about, or any project. If somebody is the, you know, instigator, and it gives me a deadline, you know, it's like this podcast. We've had a big break from the first series because I didn't have any deadline. If somebody gives me one, and I know you've got some really good ideas, I don't know how much you want to, if we talk about any of it here, but, you know, I know it touches on the cure, and it touches on other stuff. You know, have we said all we want to say about Return to Seoul? I mean, I know there's loads to say. Oh, well, I will say one thing I just remembered, was you've talked about the soundtrack, and it's not available, at least it's not available on the platforms I've looked at, you know, iTunes, Apple Music and that, but it is on Spotify. Davy Chou's created a playlist. So I don't know, did you just remember all the tracks, or did you literally research online, someone had put them all together? Because you obviously can't remember them all coming out to cinema.
Well, I have found the soundtrack on Apple Music.
Oh, it is on there, is it? Because I looked, or maybe it's in England, and no, because I've got
Return to Seoul. Yeah.
Is it in the English title, Return to Seoul?
Yes, it is.
Really? Because I could find it on Spotify, and that was just Davy Chou has created a playlist. Because believe me, I looked for the album on Spotify because I was going to buy it.
I'm just.
And again, while you're looking, we'll just talk about that as that track where she is dancing to it. Oh, and as Mark Kermode said, you know, the track is titled, or the lyrics are, what is it? I don't belong, or I don't know who I am, or
it's called Anybody.
Yes, I could be anybody, and that's such a great track because, and it was composed for the film, wasn't it?
Yes, by Jérémy Arcache and Christophe Musset. Retour à Seoul, original motion picture soundtrack. So actually, yeah, apologies. It's Retour à Seoul.
Oh, it is. So it's right. Okay, well, I'll look at that. I might buy it. Yeah. I mean, I know I do a lot of stuff with it streaming, but sometimes something's better to buy, you know.
Yes, no, it's a great. So obviously, there's that Freddie track, which is very much inspired by Bela Lugosi's Dead by Bauhaus, and then there's this wonderful little track, Anybody. And again, you know, I know I'm going to have to sort of analyze myself there, but there is a little fixation with Blade Runner. You know, it reminds me of that Vangelis kind of techno futuristic sort of sound. You know, when they are in the club and they dance, there is German techno there, according to Davy Chou. I'm not a techno expert, so I wouldn't know if it's German or not, but that's what he says. And then she goes to see the DJ, and they change the track, and then they play that track, which is called Anybody, and then she goes into that dancing to the track. And again, my best friend said it so reminded him of me. I can just, you know, if you play a song, especially a Cure song, and I'm completely off, nothing else matters, and my body will just tune in and respond to the music. There is, if you'd like to find it, and I'm not going to say much about it, but there is a video clip of me on YouTube dancing in the Royal Albert Hall with what's his name from James, the band James,
the lead singer.
Yes, Booth.
Okay. What was he? Was he in the? So he was in the crowd.
Yeah, he did his thing. He just went into the crowd, roll up a hole, and then I just went absolutely mental, and I just danced like I usually used to dance in those days. And it's recorded, and apparently it's on YouTube somewhere. But
Oh, have you found it? Have you looked it up?
oh yeah, yes,
So you said apparently it's on YouTube somewhere. So I was thinking,
it is on YouTube. I'm saying
okay,
apparently because maybe it's disappeared, but I certainly watched it at the time, and it was definitely there. And there are two versions indeed. So yeah,
well,
Team,
it seems.
Team Booth, that's the name. Team
Oh
Booth.
yes, I mean James are great. You know, I mean they are great. They're still going as far as I'm aware, but just
Wow.
not on the mainstream thing. You know, but dancing. I mean, I dance a lot. I mean, I think everybody dances privately. You know, that's just I don't know anybody who wouldn't, but it's just something. You know, I used to drink. You know, and it was a big part then. I just went over the top. I haven't had a drink for like nearly 4 years. And I've been out before. I still feel a bit wooden compared to what I did then, but I just love, it's a great going. It's kind of, I'm trying to relate this to the film. It is an expression, it's just something you can't explain. And the moods, like you said about a song, certain pure song, it could be their songs aren't all the thing is they are very danceable, but they're also dark. But it depends, there's some moody ones and there's very hypnotic ones. And my sister Tracy, she used to play them, used to brainwash us all, But I did the same with things like Erasure because we had different tastes, but we also had some crossovers, as you with siblings you do. But yeah, no, it's a great soundtrack. And of course there's a couple of Korean songs. Is it Petal?
Yeah, it's a beautiful song.
Yeah, and again, it's great that the soundtrack, highlights that Korean music because there are some, even though some of that old stuff goes against my, artistic appreciation. I like music that's written by the artist, and a lot of the music back then wasn't, some of it wasn't original. Like there wasn't in the UK, you had loads of artists that, but you've got to admire the old. It's a bit like old Cambodian music, to be honest. And I think actually Davy Chou said something about that. But it's like if I hear an old bit of Thai music or Korean music or Cambodian, sometimes there's quite a few similarities, If you go back 50 years or something, there's a lot of, similar Asian vibes, maybe the right word, or voices.
Yeah.
I love all that. It's just so foreign to, being British, which is, I'm I'm a big advocate for Korean indie music, as you might know, and also now lately Thai indie music, but yeah, not the dreaded other K manufactured stuff. Dare I say? Not that they don't do some good stuff for perhaps Korea, but it depends which way you look at it. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to. I mean, if you want to speak about anything else. I mean, if we put Return to Seoul to one side, unless one of us has a question about it, a point about it, and if you want to talk about other stuff that we can or we don't need to include, or we can just.
No, I think
save it for another time.
Yes, my relationship with the Cure, what I've done with the songs for therapeutic purposes.
Yes.
My book that I'm writing, inspired by my journal when I was in therapy, and how important their music has been throughout my life. I think we can keep that for another time, really.
Yeah, well, I want to do something with you with that, video-wise.
Sure, yeah.
But unless you hold me to it, time will just go on. And it's terrible. I might be even coming back to the UK in a month's time, but I'm not sure about that. But what was I going to say? you know, it's things like that with, you know, being artistic or I don't know. I love, you know, trouble is I'm in a place where I get distracted easily, but I did in the UK. I'd be in New Malden, Koreatown. You know, I do miss with Tim a lot and with a lot of other Korean people, but not just Koreans, a lot of neighbors. And but it's funny when you said about queuing for a ticket earlier for this film, because then I remembered that we've had experiences with ticket purchasing because of that South Bank experience, which was for Meltdown, wasn't it? Meltdown?
Yeah, seeing the queue at Malden. Yeah.
I didn't know a lot of the tracks that evening.
Really? Yeah, fair enough.
Not as many as Tracy would have known, you know, because it's hardcore. It's, you know, I liked it. I loved it, but it was just. It
was an amazing experience, I have to say.
Yeah. So where are you residing now? You are in the same place that you were when we spoke last time, because our background's the same. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, we can save that for another time. But when I do come back to the UK, we should get together, if only for a catch up and a coffee.
Absolutely.
I know I'm going to use my time. Well, I say this now, but wisely. You know, I don't want to be in the UK for long. I want to meet friends and obviously family and do stuff and then get back to. Oh, that's what I was going to say. One last thing was, you know, if we do collaborate on one of those things with your journals and cure stuff, it might take you to Korea again.
It might.
You could go under, you know, if you go there from an artistic way, as in, you know, you're not going there to feel, because you said that earlier. You said depends what way you go back there next time. You said if you go back there, I don't know what you said, but as an adoptee or as a tourist, you said. So it depends what head you have on when you go there. You know, if you go back as a tourist and forget that you are the same, but that's going to be difficult. Yeah, that would be weird.
I think you go back as all of that, all the different parts will be there competing for attention.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, well, that's a good point to leave this on. Well, it's been really nice talking to you. A really good subject matter. I'm glad you saw it for a start. And yeah, you know, what you've said is really valuable for everyone. Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see what he does next, Davy Chou, with maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I'm just hoping it gets a lot of recognition. It has got a lot, like you said about Cannes, but maybe it's the entry for the Oscars. I mean, not that the Oscars are everything, but it just helps with prominence. You know, people seek things out, and it's a good time for it because Korea is the hot topic for the last few years. You know, it's kind of, I know it's Adoptee, but what I mean, it's got Return to Seoul. It should bring a lot of people to it. Okay, well, I'll leave you to it. It's late here. It's 10:44 p.m. I'll be deciding whether I book my flight back or not. Which reminds me, I haven't called my mum today. But yeah, it's been great, and all the best.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me, and it's been a wonderful chat. Look forward to catching up with you in person.
Yeah, or we'll do another, and maybe before that we'll do another chat about the other stuff.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right then.
Okay then. All right, see you again. Au revoir.
Au revoir. Bye.
Thanks for watching or listening. 안녕히 계세요.